So on his own, we had an individual going to Uganda, adopting an orphanage, and finding this young man, Adolf, in need, and bringing him here to get treatment for his burns so that he could walk again. So that, that's exceptionally above, service above self, as we say, which is the Rotary motto.
It's my very great honor to introduce a hero in our club. In fact, a hero from a whole family of heroes. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming our friend, speaker, hero, and an angel among us, Lane Wagenfeld.
Hello. So today I want to tell you the story of Adolf Baguma. And it's a story of Adolf's challenges and his triumphs, but it's really more. It's a story about service above self, which is our ideal for Rotary. And it really is a Rotary story as well. About 4 years ago, I was minding my own business when my friends Will and Sandy Bredberg came to me, and Will's over here, and they said, Lane, do you want to come over to our house on Sunday and hear about a trip we take to Uganda? And the idea was, we can't change the world, but maybe over the course of a lifetime, we can focus on one village and one orphanage. And maybe in the end, we can change the world. Uganda is in East Africa. It's a little country the size of Oregon. And the only things I really knew about Uganda were Idi Amin, the horrendous, monstrous tyrant. I knew that it was next door to Rwanda, where the genocide had been. And my vision of Uganda was of a desolate place, just dirt, maybe a tree every 4 miles. So I decided to go on the trip with them, and this is what I saw when I got to Uganda. Just beautiful rolling green countryside. And these were some of the orphans I first met when I first got to the orphanage. And some of you have heard me tell the story of what I do while I'm back there. So I've been the last 3 years to Uganda. I'm going again in June to work with the orphanage. And a lot of visitors go, and they love the little kids. Little kids have a great smile, and they fall in love with them. But there are a lot of teenage boys there who are just yearning to become men. And so, for you and I, we have our fathers that we looked up to, and that's how we learned to be a man, whether it was explicit or not. That's who we looked at, and that's how we figured out what you're supposed to do. But these boys don't have that. And so I decided that I was going to focus on spending my time with these boys and developing this idea of building men. And so what we do is we play sports, we work together, but we also talk a lot. And we talk about our fears, we talk about what they're going to do in the future, teach them how to introduce themselves, to put their hand out, look you in the eye, and say, "Hi, my name is." Talk about girls, too. And it has been just the most fulfilling thing that I've ever done in my life. And so this year, when I was in Uganda, I met a new boy at the orphanage, and he's on the left there. His name is Adolf. And Adolf has this most infectious smile and just a fantastic personality. But Adolf walked on all fours. And Adolf is an orphan, and when he was younger, he was living with a young aunt of his, who, one day when he was reaching for food, she threw scalding hot banana leaves and water on him and burned his legs. And his legs healed together so that they couldn't straighten. They were fused together. And this is how I first met Adolf, walking him to school on all fours down a dirt path. And so there are a lot of needs in Uganda, a lot of needs at the orphanage, medical, economic. It's a very poor village. Obviously, there's a lot of orphans there. And so, you can't be everything to everyone, and you can't solve all their problems. And Adolf was one of those stories that was just a little too big to contemplate. What could I, as one person, do to help a boy like this who needed, such serious surgery? So I came back to Los Angeles. I went back to my regular life. I went to work. I got caught up in the busyness of life. And one thing I like to do when I come back from my trip is to post some photos on Facebook and tell the stories. And one of the photos that I put on there was this photo of Adolf, and talked about his story a little. Not too long after that, the phone rang. And it was my friend Susan Griego, who's one of our LA5 Rotarians. And Susan said, "Lane, on Monday night I'm having drinks with my good friend Carol Horvitz, and she's the executive director of the Children's Burn Foundation. Can I tell her about Adolf?" And I said yes. And I got together some photos and a little description and forwarded on. Now, I don't know what Susan and Carol were drinking that night, but Carol said yes right away. She said, "We can help this boy." And she put me in touch with her chief of operations at the foundation, Tanya Sorkin. And Tanya and I worked for a number of months, getting all the information together, getting photos of the burns so we could share them with the surgeons, working on, she worked on how much this is going to cost, who's going to do this, passports, visas, how do we get him over here. And she put together a whole packet that they would submit to the foundation's committee, who would review this and say yay or nay on helping Adolf out. And who was on that committee? Our own Bill Barrett, another LA5 member.
Bravo, Bill.
And Bill selflessly spends his time going through these applications of child burn victims and figuring out how the Children's Burn Foundation can help them out. So then our next thing was Dr. Grossman at the Grossman Burn Center. And he said, yes, I'll do the surgery. So all the pieces were coming together, but we had one left. And that was, where's Adolf going to stay while he's here? And who's going to take care of him? And the foundation had dealt with some orphanages here before in the past. But I said, wait a second, I have an idea. So I have this brother, Scott. I don't know why everyone starts laughing, but Scott and Ashley live in Thousand Oaks, and they have 4 little children, at this time, all under 5 years of age. And so one day, when I was at the beach with them and Ashley, and it was a quiet day, no one was having a temper tantrum, no one was screaming, no one was throwing up, I told Ashley the story of Adolf and said, hey, I'm looking for a family who can take him in for 6 to 9 months, probably 3 surgeries, physical rehabilitation, and want to see if you guys will do it. And I said, Ashley, you have a 5-year-old, you have a 4-year-old, you have a 2-year-old, you have a 1-year-old. What the heck, let's just add one more 11-year-old Ugandan who can't speak English or walk. And you know what? She said yes. And Scott said yes too. So I want to stop and pause here and just point out a couple things. One, this story is really a testament to Rotary. The director of the orphanage in the little village in Uganda, she's the president of the Rotary Club of Kienjojo, Uganda. Susan Griego, who made that one phone call that started all of this, one of our LA5 members. Bill Barrett, also an LA5er, and my brother Scott, the Rotary Club of Santa Monica. This was not a Rotary project, but it's so incredible to watch how these people live with this ideal of service above self in their everyday life. The second point I want to make is, did you notice how everyone said yes right away with no hesitation for an orphan who lives half a world away who they've never met before? I feel truly blessed that I'm surrounded by people like all of you who do this kind of service so selflessly every day of your life. I want to show a video of Adolf when he first arrived in LA, and this is from KABC News.
Crippled and terribly burned while trying to get food, arrives here in Southern California for reconstructive surgery. Eyewitness News reporter Leslie Miller is live at LAX with the story of this 11-year-old and the Good Samaritans who made his trip possible. Leslie?
Michelle, this next story will warm your heart when you see the face and the smile on this little boy from Uganda. He was brought here to the United States by the Children's Burn Foundation so he can get the reconstructive surgeries that he needs for those severely burned legs. But none of this would be possible if it wasn't for a local man who wanted to help and his family. They decided they want to make a difference.
A look of wonderment on the face of Adolf Baguma as the 11-year-old Uganda boy is met at LAX by a barrage of TV cameras and a brand new family who's been anxiously awaiting his arrival.
Now you got a mommy!
Adolf was only 7 years old when his aunt burned his legs with hot banana leaves for trying to take food. The burns were never properly treated and his legs healed at a 90-degree angle, forcing Adolf to crawl on all fours. The boy, whose parents are deceased, ran away, and last year he was picked up on the side of the road by this woman who works at a Ugandan orphanage.
So I got out of my car, went to see him and to just see what's happening with him, and then I got the story that he had been burnt by his auntie and he was living on the street by himself.
It really hits you in the gut when he couldn't keep up with the other kids walking to school, you know, when he's walking on a dirt path on all fours.
Lane Wagonseller was volunteering at the orphanage when he met Adolf. He was determined to help the boy stand up on his two legs again, so he contacted the Children's Burn Foundation in Los Angeles.
When I see him and his little bent legs, I just know that the Children's Burn Foundation is going to give him just such a gift.
There's a couple things we take for granted in life, and I think walking and family are probably two of them.
And this Thanksgiving, Adolf is going to have a family, thanks to Lane's brother and sister-in-law, who've agreed to take him into their home as he undergoes the surgeries necessary for him to walk again.
He has had nothing in his life that has been very good for him, and we're just very thrilled to be sharing our lives and for him to be sharing his life for us.
We are so happy Adolf is here. I want him to stay forever.
And Adolf has a message for his new family.
He says he loves them and he wants to enjoy with them his time here.
Now, Adolf also hopes to learn English while he's here, but I discovered when I told him that I think he's beautiful that he already knows a few words. He looked at me and he said, "Thank you." Now, Adolf will undergo surgeries over the next 6 to 9 months at the Grossman Burn Center. The Children's Burn Foundation is hoping that someone here in the U.S. will adopt him when he recovers. Reporting live at LAX tonight, Leslie Miller, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
You were right.